Hi, Dr. Brickner, Brickner Chiropractic Health Center. I'm going to talk a little bit about vaccines today. You know, we have all this going on about the coronavirus and everything else, and you know, that's just one of the many things that's out there that they want to vaccinate for. And whether you're for or against, I just want to bring to one's mind, you know, some of the cons. You know, we've heard of a ton of pros through the years. You know, if you've been around in the United States and you've grown up in this era of vaccinations in the last 20, 30 years, then you've certainly been made aware of what the medical establishment feel are the pros to things. But not a lot of people know about the other side of the vaccine issues there. You know, and as we look at some things, I just want to bring you up to speed on, or just make an awareness of some things here. Not trying to sway you one way or the other, but just to give you some food for thought here. You know, this is not all-encompassing as well either. There's a lot of information out there. In fact, at the end of this discussion, I'll give you some resources you can look at. I really want people to be informed as they're making a decision, because I'll tell you, it's a big decision, it's a big issue. Being a parent of 5 kids myself, you know, it's an important aspect to look at. So as we just look at some of the things that I want you to think about, most people don't even know, because I ask this question a lot in my own practice, what's in a vaccine? You know, most people don't realize the chemical makeup of vaccines. They think, well, there's just a germ or a virus that's in there, and you inject it into the body, and boom, you have an immunization formed. Well, actually, there's more to the vaccine than just a virus or a germ that's in there. For example, there's aluminum in there as a neurostimulant. There's formaldehyde. There's mercury. Both of those are preservatives. And not to mention that the vaccine, the germ or the virus, bacteria that's being cultivated is made in something. You can't just grab it out of the air. You have to actually cultivate it in the lab, and typically animal tissue is being used. Monkey kidneys, cow's blood, different things are used in order to cultivate the virus in the lab so that we have something to inject into you and I. So that's just part of what that is. And you can look at those things. You can go online and you can see what are in vaccines and what the different elements, the different chemicals, what they do to the body. The next thing that I typically ask individuals, parents, as they're debating about the vaccine issue is, what diseases are you vaccinating for? You know, as you look at the different diseases out there, diphtheria, whooping cough, tetanus, polio, measles, mumps, rubella, you know, those are all diseases that, you know, in early stages can be treated. You know, do you really know what you're dealing with? And so, you know, there are some things like measles, which really, in the grand scheme of things, helps us to develop immunity for other things. Normal childhood illnesses were the thing that we really wanted to get 50, 60 years ago, so that our bodies would develop immunity against other things. And so as you look at the diseases that we're vaccinating for, I encourage you to look at what the symptoms are. Many of those diseases are nothing more than bad flu or bad cold symptoms, you know? So are we really gaining anything by vaccinating against these things? So I encourage you to do some research on that. Google is a wonderful place to be looking for information there. And then as we look at natural immunity versus artificial, you know, when you get a vaccination, there's an artificial immunity that's created. And there's some question as to whether that's really a benefit to us. You know, unfortunately, in the world of research, there's never been any double-blind studies. That is the gold standard of research. And what a double-blind study is where the researcher and those who are part of the research don't know what's being done. You have a bystander on the outside of all that who's watching the data and results. And that is the gold standard when it comes to scientific research. And there's not been one double-blind study done on the safety and or effectiveness of vaccines. Not one. And for something that is so valuable to the community and so widely distributed, you'd think that that would be something that would have been done, but there's not one study that's been done out there. So we really don't know what the safety or the effectiveness of vaccines are. And also back to, I touched on natural immunity versus artificial. Natural immunity, if you think about how we get a cold or a flu, we breathe in the virus. That is our number one defense, the nasal mucosa. So the body's number one defense systems aren't even activated when we're injected through the bloodstream. So you're not getting that long-term natural immunity or lifelong immunity when you're doing artificial vaccinations. That's why booster shots are necessary. You know, and when I first heard about this next thing, I'm like, I wonder how many people really know about this. The United States had created back in the 80s a National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program. In fact, there's a National Vaccine Injury Compensation Hotline, a 1-800 number. In fact, I actually even called it the other day just to make sure that that was the hotline. And you can get online and check that out if you want. But think about that. If we had a National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program, that right there should tell you something, should at least get you thinking, why do we have this? If vaccines are so safe and effective, why do we have a vaccine injury compensation program? In fact, since the 80s, when this thing was formed, the United States government has paid out over $4 billion in compensation injury claims. $4 billion. So if once again, we had that safety and effectiveness of a vaccine, why is the United States spending $4 billion? And why do we have vaccine company indemnities, meaning that we cannot sue a vaccine company for injuries? So you have to wonder why that is even in place itself. So those are some questions you need to be looking at and asking yourself. And if you decide that you're going to vaccinate, in fact, in today's society, most kids will be receiving 15 different types of vaccines in an array of 60 plus doses by the time they're 6 years of age. That should get somebody thinking about the insult to the body. Think about that, 60 plus doses of 15 different diseases by the time a kid is age of 6. Tremendous insult into the system. So, you know, these are just some of the things, once again, to try to get you to understand and to look at the different issues that are there in regard to the vaccines. You know, it's a big, big decision. As a parent, you should prayerfully and cautiously look at that and at least be informed. There are some great resources out there, two of some of the best that I want to make you aware of. NVIC.org, National Vaccine Information Center, NVIC.org, and Mercola.com, 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 one of the world's largest natural health sites, can give you plenty of information when it comes to making that decision. And that is definitely a decision you want to make, not blindly. You want to make a well-informed decision because it's extremely important, especially in today's day and age. Once again, thank you very much for your time and attention, and check out the resources and make a decision that you and your spouse and your kids can be happy about. Thanks.